The idea of the brain as a toddler is great. And I have a friend who has an analogy about that as well, to where if we are kind of struggling during the night and our brain is acting up and do all these things, he compares it to a toddler. He says, sometimes we need to just ignore the toddler, just let it act up for a little bit and let it calm down on its own, settle down, and then we'll come back to it.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, everyone. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And of course, our show is over at understandingautoimmune.com. And I'm so happy to have you here. It's always an honor and a pleasure. And tonight I have a great guest. Honestly, I've been waiting a few months for him. He's just awesome and so busy. I'm really excited to have him because he's going to talk about a topic that I think a lot of the people in the autoimmune community want to know about it, but whether they have autoimmune or not, because we're talking all things sleep. That's right, sleep. Because I don't know about you, at the beginning of my diagnosis, I was told things, women your age, which I really hate when I heard that, but probably partially true, and things like that. And then I realized that the autoimmune condition played a part into my poor sleep quality too. So I invited Seth Davis. He's a certified adult sleep coach and is the founder of Sleepably. I hope I pronounced that.
Sleepably. That's okay.
Sleepably. That in the background there was Seth, and he's a Denver-based team of sleep coaches who help adults and children sleep better. He works with clients worldwide to explore how their behaviors, thoughts, and lifestyles and potentially affecting sleep and create personalized plans for optimizing their rest and overcoming sleep issues. So I'm so excited. Welcome to this show, Seth.
Thank you, Sharon. It's great to be here and great to talk with your audience about an important subject.
Incredibly important. And I think it's very misunderstood. Aren't you supposed to just be able to put all your cares and worries away and close your eyes and 30 seconds later you're out?
You would think so. That's the ideal situation, but not that easy for a lot of people though.
Yes. I know someone in my world who does that, has the ability to just go, I think I'm going to sleep now. And they do. And part of me wants to wake them up because that's no fair. How did you get into being an adult sleep coach?
I think it's like a lot of things where I got into it out of a personal need. So I dealt with sleep issues for probably about 15 years. And I had plenty of nights where I was staring at the ceiling, trying to fall asleep, like the lucky person you were just talking about, or wondering what was I doing wrong, or worrying about sleep. And so I went through a lot of sleep struggles myself and just knew how just frustrated I felt, like miserable at times. And so eventually I tried the supplements and I tried sleeping pills a little bit and all those things. And I realized that I wanted to figure out how to do it naturally and realize what was I doing wrong so I could fix that and then create a business around it to help other people. So the first thing I did was I got certified as a sleep coach, and through all the education that I went through, I applied all the things I was learning to myself. And that's where I learned what was I doing wrong and how to fix those things. And eventually did get myself to a much better place, and then created a business to help adults, and then brought in a couple of pediatric people to help kids as well. So we're just trying to cover all the bases with all the different age groups.
When I read that in your bio about sleep and adults and children, I was like, oh, what about new parents with children?
They need a lot of help.
That would be the worst time for sleep for me.
No, that is a rough time for everybody. Unless you're one of those lucky people whose kids just sleep through the night from the get-go.
I heard about those, but I thought they were some sort of elusive.
Oh, it seems like a myth, but I think it really happens at times.
Okay, great. Now, I'm curious about a lot of people when they have autoimmune talk about sleep issues. Oftentimes that comes from pain and inability to get comfortable. But in your experience, what is the number one reason people have trouble falling asleep?
So with a lot of people that I work with, it usually falls into either stress. There's dealing with a lot of stress during the days, and they're not effectively leaving it behind when it comes time for bedtime, or they find themselves getting worried and stressed about sleep, and they struggle every night and they feel a sense of dread when nighttime's coming. Is that just heightening anxiety that approaches before the night or during the night? So I think those two things are some of the most common things I see. It's kind of what's going on in the brain at that moment.
When we're talking about sleep, how do we determine what is an ideal length of sleep? I know some people that can go 4 hours and they wake up just chipper and ready to go, and other people that 9-10 hours and they're grumpy and where's my coffee?
Sure. Yeah. So I always lead off just by saying that it really varies. You do have some people who they sleep for 6.5 hours. They couldn't sleep anymore if they tried. They feel great during their days, and by all accounts, they're very healthy. And then you do have those people who they need 9 hours of sleep, or they seem like they can't function. So it varies by person. But if you go by just the standard kind of definitions of the amount of sleep that we should be getting, usually it's 7 to 9 hours, or somewhere within that range. That's the most commonly recommended amount of sleep that we should get, in that 7 to 9 hour range.
7 to 9 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, does that have to be uninterrupted sleep? Because I know when I was early in my diagnosis, I was trying to commit that much time to it, but I would get so uncomfortable that I would be waking up every 90 minutes to a couple of hours.
Usually I end up educating people that there are some complicating factors like pain and things like that and comfort, but it is natural to wake up a little bit during the night. So wake up between sleep cycles, between 90-minute sleep cycles, and we roll over and wake up for a little bit. So it is natural to wake up a little bit during the night. And as much as possible, we would like to have uninterrupted sleep. There can be complicated factors, as I mentioned. So it really is just doing our best to make ourselves as comfortable as possible, to create the right conditions for sleep, including what's going on in the brain. And the more that we can do that, we should have fewer disruptions. But it is natural to wake up a little bit during the night.
Let's define a little bit, like 2 or 3 minutes, because I'll tell you, sometimes my little bit drags out for a half hour or more.
Usually it's when we're talking about a little bit, it would be maybe we wake up 6 to 8, 10 times, but they're usually very within a couple minutes. So sometimes they're even so short that we don't even remember them. So it's natural to have those little wake ups. If we start getting into those longer awakenings, so we're talking 30 minutes, 60 minutes, things like that, then that gets a little bit more into the idea of insomnia if it's happening frequently. So yeah, shorter wake ups are natural. Longer wake ups, then it might be time to start taking a look at what we can do to improve those longer wake ups.
Fantastic. Now, I want to circle back to stress, because I'm thinking that an automatic thing in those longer wake ups, maybe stress might play into a part of stressing out. How come I can't get back to sleep? I know that's a common one that I stress at, almost like chasing my tail in a way.
And that's very natural, because during the night, we want to sleep. We want to have uninterrupted sleep. And so if you wake up, it just seems this is inconvenient. This is frustrating. Why am I awake? I don't want to be awake. And so we start having those kind of thoughts. And when we have those thoughts, that's when the struggle grows. And when the struggle grows, then our body's fight or flight response kicks in, because it wants to protect us from this threat that we perceive as being awake a lot of times. We're trying to fight off this threat of being awake. Our body's stress response kicks in, and that just makes it harder to sleep for a lot of people. So when I work with a lot of people, it is looking at how can we stay calmer during those times? How can we reframe the idea of being awake so that it's not as frustrating? And when we can improve how we react to the idea of being awake, then a lot of times it helps us to actually sleep better.
Which is good advice even in the awake world. reframe the stressful situation.
It helps out so much.
Take it into your sleep world. Let's talk about some stress reducing techniques then. Let's start at the beginning. When do we prep for going to sleep? I've heard all the way from like at breakfast, you start thinking about sleep, or an hour before. So can we get a little clarity on how we prep for sleep?
From the time that we wake up in the morning, we are basically doing things to prepare for sleep. So from what we eat during the day to how much physical activity we get during the day to how if we are relieving stress throughout the day rather than saving it all up for the evening. So all those things that we're doing do prepare us for sleep at night.
When you said that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I've heard that and I agree with it. But then I also thought, oh, just one more thing.
Luckily, the good thing is that a lot of those behaviors are healthy things. We just structure our day so that we're getting sunlight when we first wake up in the morning or taking a walk during lunch or things like that. They're all healthy things. And I think the more that we can add those things to our day, not only improves sleep, but can help with stress and our mood and everything else as well.
Like when we're talking about the amount of exercise you get every day. Now, sometimes people with autoimmune have limited mobility, a limited ability to actually get a lot of exercise. When you've got limited mobility, what are some tips on getting enough exercise and enough body movement?
A general amount of time for exercise, and this can vary by circumstance. So if you do have limited mobility, that could be different for you, but just the general recommendation for a lot of people is to try to get at least around 30 minutes of moderate exercise about 5 times a week. Usually moderate means that you're breathing a little bit heavier, but you can still hold a conversation while you're exercising. You can still sing a song while you're exercising. So it's just anything that kind of gets your heart rate up a little bit and gets your body moving, gets your breathing rate up a little bit, counts as moderate exercise.
Now, does it have to be continuous? Because I know when I was at the height of the muscle weakness, I was exercising, but it was 5 minutes at a time. And then I would have to let the system recharge before I could do another set. Does it have to be a continuous 30 minutes to be?
No, I think it's just a total throughout your day. So that seems like it'd be perfectly fine to do some here, do some there, as much as you can manage at the time.
Okay. Whew, that makes it feel better. Okay. So we've got the idea of exercise down about 30 minutes, 5 times a week. Obviously, if we could do it daily, that would probably be better.
Yeah, it's better. But I think that's just the most commonly recommended amount to aim for sleep and for other areas of your life as well, just general health too.
And then another big part of the day that you mentioned is diet. How does our diet play into our ability to sleep?
So sometimes if we are eating, especially as we're getting closer to bedtime, as we're getting closer to the evening, we're at dinner, we eat a big meal. Then when we try to go to sleep, that big meal is still sitting in our bodies. We're still trying to digest it, and which is not helpful when we're trying to rest and relax for sleep. Then we look at what we're eating. So if we're eating sugary foods and fatty foods and foods that are just generally unhealthy, those also can stimulate us or they can not really be helpful for sleep. So a lot of times the healthier that we can eat, the more effective it is for improving our sleep. So timing and what we eat are both helpful.
When you mentioned dinner, is there an ideal amount of time between finishing the meal and then actually getting into, I would say, a prone position or a flat position?
So the most commonly recommended thing is 3 hours before bed. So try to leave a 3-hour window between dinner and between when you actually go to sleep. That does give you time to digest and make sure that when you do lie down, you're in a better position to relax. I do work with some people who they stick to that window, but then they get hungry right before it's time to sleep, or they find that they wake up in the middle of the night feeling hungry. So sometimes we'll say healthy snack within that, maybe 30 minutes before bed is fine. Just a little 250 calorie snack of some sort, whether it's a banana or a piece of toast or something like that. Just something to take the edge off. It's not going to really have you digesting for hours while you're trying to sleep.
That's a good idea. I do know it's a couple of friends that can't go that long between meals, and it would be nice to be helpful for them.
Sure.
Now, the idea of reflux, the question popped into my mind. Do you have to stay completely flat, or is it healthy or okay to maybe have your head higher or your feet higher or both higher? Or how do we determine a good position for our body?
Yeah, I think you can be inclined a little bit if that's more comfortable. And when it comes to that, I think usually sleeping on the left side is better for reflux a little bit. Just because the position of your body allows for better kind of digestion. So if you're left side sleeping, I think is better for reflux.
Wow, I didn't know that. I found when I was at the height of the inflammation that flat sleeping was painful and that putting my head and my feet on a little incline helped. Is that okay to sleep that way?
Yes, it is. Some people do that because it makes it easier for them to breathe. Some people do it for digestive reasons. So yeah, whatever is the most comfortable, it's going to be helpful for you in the long run. So there's nothing wrong with sleeping at a little inclined feet or head.
I'm going to go down another rabbit hole.
Sure.
You mentioned easier to breathe. And the first thing that popped into my mind is several people I know, and not all of them have autoimmune, but just have been diagnosed with sleep apnea. If I'm asleep, maybe I'm sleeping alone. So how do I know if I should be tested for sleep issues like sleep apnea?
So with sleep apnea specifically, there are some things. Obviously, if you know that you're waking yourself up snoring, or if you know that you wake up gasping for air, things like that, those are some of the most common things. Sometimes other symptoms are like you have a headache, or your mouth is just really, really dry when you wake up, your throat's really dry. Those are some of the biggest kind of telltale signs. If you have to wake up a lot during the night to use the bathroom, if you feel really tired during the day, the next day, those are all things that you can pay attention to and see. And then they also there's apps that will record for your snoring too. So you can set it up and just have it record during the night. And if you hear yourself snoring on that app and it detects it, then you might want to go get tested for sleep apnea as well.
Oh, that sounds scary in a way. Would I hear myself roaring like a train, or it just said, hey, you snored X number of times?
They'll let you listen to it if you want to, or they'll just tell you this is how much you are snoring.
I'm thinking of a friend who complains about their partner, their spouse. Maybe that would be a good idea to let them believe, yes, you do snore.
Well, just the proof is in the pudding or in the recording.
Okay. You mentioned about this idea of sleep testing. What is a sleep test?
It used to be, historically, you would go into a sleep clinic and they would just have you sleep for the night, and they'll attach you to some electrodes that just measure things like breathing rate and things like that. And so it'll be able to tell you if you have sleep apnea or another sleep disorder. So they can look at what your brain is doing and look at what you're breathing and everything, and they can detect that. So that they've done that for a long time. And now it's gotten a lot easier. In a lot of cases, you can bring home a sleep testing kit, and it's just something you wear on your finger while you sleep for a night or two, and it will detect the same things. They'll be able to tell if you're dealing with sleep apnea or things like that. You can do it in the comfort of your own home.
That sounds so much nicer. Just the idea of trying to sleep somewhere, just even a hotel room is difficult enough. But if they had me all hooked up to things, I can't imagine it would be very accurate on how I normally sleep.
Sure. I honestly don't even think I'd be able to sleep in those conditions.
I'm not sure I would either. As you mentioned it, like I'd be afraid to turn my head or whatever. So what other kinds of tests do you do for people who come to you and say, Seth, I just can't sleep?
So if there's a sleep disorder, so if there's possibly sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome, I always refer out to the sleep clinic so they can do the tests. And so people can rule those things out. And when they come to work with me, I work more on the kind of cognitive behavioral side of things. We will work on maybe the sleep schedule needs to be adjusted, or maybe the person's routines or daily behaviors need to be adjusted. And then going back to the brain, we really do start to work on stress and sleep-related anxiety and things like that. So it's really working on what is the person doing every day and how do they feel about sleep and what's standing in the way of their sleep in terms of things. And those are the things I work on with them as a sleep coach.
I just want to back up a little bit. What is restless leg syndrome?
So restless leg syndrome, for a lot of people, you might be lying there in bed, you're trying to relax for sleep, and you just feel this kind of itchy, tingling sensation in your legs. It just makes you want to move your legs a lot. And you just can't get comfortable. And so you just have this kind of sensation, and it makes it hard to relax. And so for people will feel that, and they just feel like they just need to get up and walk around and move their legs and stretch out their legs.
That sounds like it would be really uncomfortable. And does that happen throughout the whole night where you can't get comfortable? You're up and trying to stretch your legs several times a night?
I believe it does happen pretty frequently throughout the night. Just very disruptive for a lot of people.
Well, we need to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Seth some more about exactly what he does about reducing sleep anxiety and stress and prepping ourselves to get a good night's sleep. So we'll be right back.
The Autoimmune Hour will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by understandingautoimmune.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance. Say hi, guys. When I adopted them, I discovered that they both have incredible personalities. Chance's sole purpose in life is to love and to be loved. Frankie is a little bit of a scoundrel and always entertaining. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite Review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at ProjectForgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and all of these episodes are over at UnderstandingAutoimmune.com. We have 400 plus. I think we're into the 420s now, so plenty of things. One thing we hadn't really talked about much is sleep. I'm thinking back to my early part of the diagnosis when I was in so much inflammation and so much pain, how hard it was to sleep. I'm getting better at sleeping now as I'm becoming more and more of a thriver. But there are still times when I find that things like every day take over. And then I really sometimes find that I'll get mini flares if I hadn't had a good night's sleep. So I invited Seth Davis. He's a certified adult sleep coach and the founder of Sleepably. I don't know why I'm struggling with that word, but Seth is awesome, as well as his team. They're Denver-based, and they're sleep coaches, and they can work with you virtually, who help adults and children sleep better. And he works with clients worldwide to explore how their behaviors, thoughts, and lifestyles are affecting our sleep. And that's what I want to jump into now. We talked a little bit about our behaviors during the day and how diet and 30 minutes of exercise will help, trying to get rid of stress in the moment it happens instead of harboring it all and mining it for all it's worth right before bed. But let's say maybe just life intervenes and we're one of those people that tend to hoard stress. What tips do you have for people as they begin to wind down towards the end of the day and want to release that stress before they take it under the covers with themselves?
Sure. My first tip is to give yourself time to release that stress. A lot of people tend to just go and then it hits bedtime and we try to flip a switch and go right to sleep. And that often doesn't work out so well, especially if you're carrying around this stress with you. A lot of you have probably heard this advice before, but just reserving at least that hour before bed, if possible, just for completely redirecting your attention from whatever happened during the day to just unwinding for the night. If something happened during the day, we're just going to just start to let that go a little bit, or to use this time more for self-care. So this is a time where we can do things that we actually want to do that are calm and enjoyable, that we can kind of just refocus ourselves on something better than whatever happened during the day.
And one of the thoughts, because I am a parent, but they're fully grown now, is, Seth, that would be ideal, but I've got little kids running around. And I remember how I used to unwind with my kids, and that was reading them bedtime stories.
Even that can be relaxing, just reading those stories to your child. And then once they go down, then you could read your own bedtime story if you wanted to. Read a book that you enjoy, or watch a show that you enjoy, or audiobooks, or some people do just gentle yoga or stretching. So whatever it is, that something that you enjoy doing. So I feel lucky that I get to do this thing, and I have this little bit of time before bed so that I can do that thing. And so the more that we can engage in those activities that are calm and enjoyable, that's a good way just to give ourselves a little treat before we go to sleep and just focus our attention on those things that we enjoy.
I'm going to rat out a little friend without naming names, but I have a question about that, because I have a friend who enjoys really scary movies right before bed. I'm just like, how can you do that?
So I would say it really comes down to just doing a self-check on how the activity is affecting you personally. Personally, I could watch a zombie show and sleep just fine.
Wow.
So,
Not me.
So I can do that, but another person might do that, and they might have trouble falling asleep or have really disturbing dreams the whole night. And so if you can do that and you like doing that, then by all means, that's great. But if you find that it's affecting you negatively and possibly affecting your sleep or putting you in a negative mood before sleep, then I would definitely maybe look at doing something different.
Now, I'm thinking about taking that kinds of things into the bedroom. What are your thoughts on television in the bedroom?
So I try to avoid that, because typically what we want to do is we want to make the bedroom and your bed a place where we only go pretty much for sleep and for intimate activities. That's your sleep sanctuary. And the more that we do things in bed or in your bedroom that we normally do while we're awake. So if you're eating in bed, or if you are, staying up for 2 hours watching TV in bed or doing work in bed or things like that, the more it kind of signals to your brain that maybe this is a place where we can be awake for a long time too. So it trains your brain to maybe stay awake for longer while we're in bed, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I was thinking of those, the way you were talking about there for a minute, I'm thinking about training my brain as if I'm training a toddler. Like, we do this in this room, like the dining room, we eat here. We do our schoolwork here at the desk. And for the bedroom, we make sure that that little toddler mind of ours knows that the bedroom is there for sleep and intimate activities.
The idea of the brain as a toddler is great. And I have a friend who has an analogy about that as well, to where if we are struggling during the night and our brain is acting up and do all these things, he compares it to a toddler. And he says, sometimes we need to just ignore the toddler, just let it act up for a little bit and let it calm down on its own, settle down, and then we'll come back to it. And then also with just our sleep schedule as well, we need to tell the toddler, okay, this is when bedtime is, and this is when we wake up. And we don't want to deviate from that too much. And so it is like training a toddler a little bit.
So I have to talk to my inner child, my younger inner child.
It's a good conversation to have sometimes.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I'm thinking about other things too in the bedroom. So one of the things that annoys me is a lot of the new clocks and my lamp and even my air filter have these little lights on them. They're just dots, but they are so annoying and I can't get my room dark. Should I put little pieces of tape over those things and to get the room dark, or are those little dots okay?
Ideally, we want the room to be as dark as possible. If you are able to put tape over the lights and it doesn't really disrupt anything, I think that'd be great. Some people just cover them with a towel or something. But yeah, in general, the idea is to have the room as dark as possible, because even just little amounts of light can affect our sleep quality. So the more that we can reduce the amount of light in the bedroom, whether it's coming from the windows or coming from devices or whatever, the more benefits it should have for your sleep quality.
When you mentioned that about the windows, so I bought those darkening shades. They look really cool, but it's like I can never get them close enough to the window. So there's all this little light creeping around my darkening shades. So to solve that, I still comes up around the top, but to solve that, I have these little thumbtacks tack it into the wall. Any thoughts on some sort of shade that can actually truly darken your window?
Yeah, thumbtacks are a decent solution. I think they do make ones that have magnetic attachments, so they'll attach a little bit more closely to the window. I think it is really just about finding a good fit and making sure that it does cover the entire area, and hopefully have some kind of ways to fasten it closer to the window to block out the light that might be escaping through.
The idea of magnets, that sounds like it would look a little more in my sensibilities of decor and everything. The thumbtacks actually create slight angst in my bedroom now that I think about it. So I'm going to take you up on your idea of getting those little magnets from a home improvement store. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that can help.
And that would hide too. It wouldn't look obvious that, oh, she thumbtacked her curtains to them. Now, what about temperature, room temperature? Is there an ideal temperature that the body likes?
There is. And again, for a lot of people, it's different. Different people have different comfort zones. A lot of people do find that it's harder for them to sleep if they're too hot or too cold. And so the idea is that we do want the body to start to cool down toward bedtime, because our core body temperature naturally cools down when it approaches bedtime, and we want to support that process. So for a lot of people, the idea of 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is the sort of the golden zone for a lot of people. Some people like it colder than that. So, anywhere from 60 to 68, but that's the general range that most people find comfortable and that supports the body's process of cooling down.
Bizarre tangential question to that. So I'm notorious for getting cold in the evening, and I love to bundle up in my little robe with the hood, the whole thing. That's how I unwind reading a book, but I'm bundled up to stay warm. Am I kind of short-circuiting my ability to fall asleep by my little bundling?
I guess I would, again, look at your actual sleep and how do you feel when it's time to go to bed. I don't think that it's too bad because you're keeping yourself comfortable and it feels good. And ideally, if you go into your bedroom and the temperature is cooler than there, then that's the signal that we're looking for. So I don't think that you're really overwarming yourself by just bundling up in your robe and things. I think that sounds more comfortable, and I don't think that would be too much of an issue. But if you did find that you are having trouble falling asleep, then maybe we'd look at just having a lighter robe or something like that. But overall, I don't think you're in much.
Good, because that's my binky. I wasn't really going to be excited about changing that part of my night routine.
No, I think that sounds like a healthy part of your routine.
Now, a very bizarre question. What happens if you share bedrooms and your routines are very different?
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of people do struggle to share a bedroom. So when it comes to routines, that's where it does take a lot of compromise between the two, kind of having that conversation of this is what I need. This is my sleep schedule. That's your sleep schedule, and finding ways to coexist so each person is getting as much as what they need as possible. For example, there are some people who go to bed a lot earlier than their bed partner does. And so the bed partner who goes to bed later might want to look at, maybe I should brush my teeth in different rooms so I'm not making a lot of noise, and get undressed in different rooms so I'm not turning on lights and things like that, so that when they get into bed, they're not really disrupting the person who's already fallen asleep. If it's a matter of comfort, some people do have different temperature preferences. So it's looking at maybe we should get different comforters or different blankets. You want a thick one, I want a thin one. So it's really just looking at where the discrepancy is between the two preferences and seeing how can we meet in the middle and make everybody comfortable and find those effective ways to mitigate it.
Yeah, that brought up another thought in my mind. I know Seth, I'm wandering all over here, but thanks for going down rabbit holes with me.
Sure.
What about people that don't sleep at night? Maybe they have a job that runs late and they are closing in the middle of the night type of thing or something, and they come home early in the morning and that's their sleep time. I've had people tell me that over the long term can create health disruptions. If you don't sleep, I'll put in air quotes, during the night, during the darkness, is that bad for your health?
So I just did a presentation for a hospital about shift work and having all these alternate shifts. And it's a tough one because it's not working with what your body normally would do. Normally we go to sleep when it gets dark outside. We wake up when it gets light outside. And that's what our bodies are trained for. and our internal clock. And so when we go outside of that, there have been studies that show that there are links between possible health issues when you're sleeping on an alternative schedule. It really comes down to, if that's your job, if that's what you like to do, it's finding ways to exist with that. So looking at things like your light exposure, and you're making sure that when you do get sleep, that it's quality sleep, and just finding ways to make sure that you're getting the highest quality sleep that you can during that time, and that you're helping yourself to adjust to it better. So yes, there are studies that show that it can potentially contribute to health problems, but I don't want to be alarmist and scare people or anything, because it's just a matter of, if that's your schedule, let's find ways to make it as gentle on your body as possible.
It's funny. I have a friend who does have a unusual cycle, and they do want to sleep during some of the brightest part of the day. What's fascinating is they get home from work during fairly bright daylight, but they call themselves a mole person because they really don't turn on many house lights, and that helps them get ready for the evening by keeping their drapes drawn and having just minimal lights on.
So light is one of the most important ways that we set our internal clock. The typical thing is we wake up in the morning, our eyes see that it's light outside, and our body says, okay, it's time to be alert. It's time to be awake for the day. And then it gets dark outside. We take in that darkness, and our brain and our eyes say, okay, it's dark, time to produce melatonin and fall asleep. So that's what typically happens. And if we're living outside of that, then we do need to try to retrain our body and our internal clock that our house is really dark right now. So that means that it's dark, it's time to fall asleep now. And then when we wake up, we need to try to expose ourselves to as much light as possible, even if it's artificial light, just to give ourselves that signal. So it really is just a matter of training our body so that it knows when is the appropriate time to sleep, when's the appropriate time to be awake.
Now, I was listening to another podcast, and I was curious about this because it stunned me. They said when you wake up, you should expose your eyes to sunlight. Actually go out and get some sunlight on your body and your eyeballs. I'd like a little clarification of that. I'm sure they didn't mean like stare at the eclipse. So, can you clarify what I'm paraphrasing that I heard?
So that's a great tip in general. When we go outside and we see that sunlight, again, it's a signal to our body that it's time to wake up and be alert. So it helps us to stop producing any melatonin that we were producing during the night, because we don't need that anymore because it's daytime. It helps us to start producing cortisol, which a lot of us know that is a stress hormone, but it's actually helps us to be alert. So it helps us to get that alertness going in the morning. It just in general kind of jump starts the whole awakening process. So if you think about it, if you were to wake up and just be a mole person for a couple of hours and just stay in the dark, then you're not getting that signal that it's daytime and time to wake up. So as much as possible, soon after we wake up, then getting that signal just resets our internal clock and says, okay, it's morning, we're waking up, and it helps you to wake up. It's a very valuable practice to have in the morning.
If I go outside, though, I'm not looking at the sun. I'm just looking around. I could be looking at flowers and trees and everything like that. I'm not staring at the sun. It's just about getting regular old daylight instead of sunlight.
I definitely don't want to stare at the sun, but just being in the sun and doing your normal activities, that's what we're looking for.
Phew, that makes more sense. This person said, go out and get sunlight in your eyes. And I'm like, what's that mean? I don't like do the eclipse thing.
Yeah, let's have a disclaimer. Do not stare at the sun.
Okay, good. That's good. So now we're just about 10 minutes. Time flies, Seth. This has been so fascinating, but I'm sure there's a ton of questions you get asked all the time that I haven't thought to ask. What would you like to share with the Autoimmune Hour community about sleep?
Yes, I do get asked a lot of questions. I get asked often a lot about supplements. So a lot of people are saying, what's the best sleep supplement that I should take? Or what's the best sleep aid that I should take? A lot of times I tell people, I don't really get into recommending any specific supplement or anything, because most of those things, there's just no real scientific data behind them. A lot of it is just subjective data. Melatonin is one of the most commonly asked ones. People will say, should I take melatonin? How much melatonin should I take? And so a lot of times I'll tell people that, first of all, our bodies naturally produce melatonin by themselves. It's a hormone. In the evening, when it gets dark outside, our bodies produce it. And when people supplement with it, a lot of times people end up taking too much of it. So they're bombarding themselves with much more melatonin than their body's producing naturally. There's no long-term data showing what happens when we do take a lot of melatonin. And so in general, I just say with melatonin and sleep supplements in general, first, let's focus on the behavioral and the cognitive things and getting to the root of the problem. So if pain's your issue, let's focus on the pain. If it's sleep anxiety, let's focus on that. Because when we can start to improve those things, then, there's not really a need to keep experimenting with this supplement and that supplement. Just in general, I think that we should start to look at our daily routines and behaviors and thoughts first before we start experimenting with every supplement and over-the-counter sleep aid known to man.
Well, that's a good point. I'm not anti any of that, but I'm all about what is there natural ways to get it also, like our body produces it anyway. That's always safer than sorry because I'm a firm believer our body is an amazing thing when given the right opportunities to heal. It wants to right itself and center itself and be in that healed state. So I'm a firm believer in doing that. You mentioned sleep anxiety, and I know we've just briefly brushed over that. I'd like to delve into that just a little bit deeper. Sometimes people get sleep anxiety, and the idea of just going to sleep makes them anxious. And we've talked about some things to do for that. Can people wake up in the middle of the night like anxious? I know I've had a dream, and I'd love to know what your idea of why we have these dreams that wake us up. But it's that kind of anxiety in the middle of the night that frustrates me.
Waking up in the middle of the night, there's quite a few things that can happen. A lot of people will wake up and they'll start thinking about some things that they have to do the next day, or things are coming up, or they'll start ruminating on things that happened in the past, of dealing with those stressful things or stressful thoughts. Or some people do wake up with nightmares or bad dreams, and they find themselves affected by that. And then a lot of people I work with, they wake up in the middle of the night, and their first thought is, oh no, I'm awake. What if I can't fall back asleep? What if I only get 2 more hours of sleep? And, if I don't sleep well right now, then tomorrow is going to be terrible. So they start going down rabbit holes, and we start to look at the specific things that are going on. So if it is a thought, if I don't sleep well tonight, then tomorrow is going to be terrible. Then we're using that as an example. Then it puts pressure on you because, oh no, so I have 3 hours to sleep. And if I don't, tomorrow's going to be a disaster. That presentation is going to be terrible, and I'm going to get fired from my job or things like that. So I work with people on thoughts like that to take a look at, is that realistic thought? Or we find memories to disprove that thought? Or how can we reframe that thought to be more positive or more optimistic? Or how can we swap that thought out for a better thought or things like that? So when we can look at our mindset at that time and bring in thoughts that are less stressful or change how we react to it, then we tend to be calmer during that time and think more rationally. And that's when it's easier to sleep because we're not putting that pressure on ourselves or finding ourselves in negative positions.
Oh, that brought up one question for me about the middle of the night. Oh no, I won't be good tomorrow. I travel a lot. What about jet lag? Is there anything we can do to help that?
One of the things you can do is if you're going to be traveling through multiple time zones, so there's going to be a big time change, you can start to prepare for that before you leave. So some people will 15 to 30 minutes start going to bed earlier or later, depending on where you're going, just so that when you do actually make the trip, that it's not as big of a shock to your system. You've already started to adjust your sleep schedule to fit that. So that's a big one. A lot of people find that when they get to the place where they're going, just to kind of live on that time zone, stay awake while it's daytime and go to sleep when it's dark. Again, looking at the theme of light, using exercise. So you get there, it's light, do a little bit of exercise just to keep yourself stimulated until it's time to start winding down. So going back to the ideas of just using our sleep schedule, light exposure, exercise, take a look at if you're using caffeine or alcohol or things like that. Maybe don't use those at the wrong time. So don't drink caffeine right before you're aiming to go to sleep in the new place or things like that. So it's using those tools that we have to just adjust to it beforehand and as soon as we get there to start adjusting more quickly.
Wow, this is wonderful, Seth. We're just about out of time, though I have many more questions, but I feel I'm more prepared to have a sleep routine now. So thank you. I'd love to have the audience know how to get a hold of you. And I know you mentioned you have a free guide for us. So tell us all about that.
Sure. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can go to our website, which is sleepably.com. That's sleepably.com. And you can read more about our one-on-one sleep coaching for adults and kids. You can read about, we do corporate presentations for companies to help their businesses, their employees sleep better. And then I have an online sleep coaching course that kind of makes the process of getting over sleep issues more fun, if that can be possible. So taking a lighthearted view to that. I do have a free gift. So if you go to sleepably.com/gift, I have a simple guide to helping you to start to create the fundamentals of a better bedtime routine that will help you to calm down and leave some of that stress behind and be comfortable and start to create a better bedtime routine for yourself.
Thank you, Seth. That's awesome. I'm excited. I'll pop over there right now and get that. And also over at understandingautoimmune.com, I'll have that URL for you as well. If you're driving or whatever, you can just pop over to Understanding Autoimmune and search for Seth's episode, and you'll find all of his resource information there for you. Thank you so much, Seth. This is a huge topic. I know we just scratched the surface of it, but I'm thrilled that I found a certified adult sleep coach. I didn't even know they existed. So everyone, this is definitely an area that I think is underutilized. So check out Seth's website and all the information and opportunities he has for you to get better quality sleep, because that's one of the keys to healing our body and letting inflammation calm down, which is a key factor in autoimmune conditions. Everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures. Join me next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
For the next few minutes, we'll be providing a guided meditation. Meditation is a positive way to help reset your day and does require specific, targeted attention and focus. Please do not drive or operate machinery during this time. As we say here, drive when you drive and meditate when you meditate.
In the next few moments, take a nice, deep breath. Oh, and let it out with a sigh. Shake out your fingers, and your arms, and your shoulders. And keep breathing, enjoying that breath as you kind of shake it all out. Let it go. Just look around a little bit right now, wherever you are. Notice what you're grateful for. Could be anything. Could even be the color of the sky today, the sweet smell of the flowers, the breeze on your face, the people you're with, the place you're at. Could be anything and everything. Take stock of all that you're grateful for that you see. Wow. Take stock of a few things maybe that you don't see right now but you're grateful for. Maybe it's somebody in your life that isn't here with you now. Someplace. Whatever it is, take stock of that and add that to that grateful list that's growing. That's right. Shake everything out and just take stock of that gratitude list that we're building. That's right. Just shake it out. Shake everything out. And continue to add to that gratitude list that you're building. That's right. Wow. Quite a list. That's right. What are you grateful for about yourself? Add that to this growing gratitude list. Don't be shy. Don't be humble. Come on. Take a moment right now, starting at the top of that list. Remember, those were the things that you saw right there near you. And count them down, anchoring each one with a beautiful breath. Number 1. Number 2. Continue on down your list of the things that are right there with you. Anchoring each one with a breath and let it out with a sigh. Allowing enough time to get through the whole list right now. Now start with the list for yourself. Begin to list those things you're grateful for about yourself and anchor each one with a nice, deep breath. Just right. That's right. Even being grateful for this moment right here, right now, feeling every bit of you alive and well, feeling healing and soothing and calming energy just tingle throughout you. Getting stronger with each breath as your gratitude begins to grow. Wow. What a list. What a lucky person. Oh, that's right. Wow. Taking the last few minutes of our time together here right now, just to enjoy this growing gratitude list that grows with each moment, each minute, each hour, each day. It continues to grow. It's not just for today. Add to it tomorrow and the next day. That's right. Oh, and anchor each one with a nice deep breath. And coming right back now, alive, full of energy, happy to be here, in joy, that's right, and feeling grateful for every moment that you have right now. Oh, wow, welcome back. Go in gratitude and enjoy your day.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Do you want to be a better leader, have better relationships, become more self-aware, be a better communicator? Hi, I'm Sharon Sayler, best-selling author, professional speaker, and executive coach. And my life passion is empowering professionals to be the best that they can be. After years of working with professionals, I've discovered the 7 things nobody is telling you that can cost you your clients, sales, and even your career. And I want to give it to you free. You've heard my show, you know my passion, and maybe we'll be working together sooner rather than later. So go grab this ebook now to find out the 7 things that's costing you big time. over at SharonSaylor.com/radio gift.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that. Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.